U.S. side in 20 years of war. And it's like, oh, well, we don't care. And that's where this goes back to your question about how can the media ignore this other national security threat? Well, they ignore all the real threats that is in the process of destroying America.
Yeah.
And so this is just one more, one more example of their willful blindness and deliberate attempt to pull the wool over the eyes of the American people.
And I often ask the question on multiple shows. Matter of fact, pretty much on all my shows, America often talks about national security.
Right.
With growing unemployment, explosion in homelessness, there's an epidemic of hunger. The inner cities are being flooded with guns, gangs, and violence. There's a deterioration in the moral code of people and the ethics of people. The morale of people within America is in decline. They don't see that as a national security threat because there's an old saying that charity starts at home, then it spreads abroad, and he who defends everything defends nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it's just, it's, let's call it what it is. If this was a bunch of white kids getting killed in Chicago every weekend, then they'd give a shit. Because it's black kids, they don't care. I mean, that's the reality. And, it's just an indictment. I remember Spike Lee did that movie Chirac, where they were comparing what it was like on the end, being in the hoods in Chicago compared to being in Iraq. And basically, it was safer in Iraq when the combat was going on than to be in Chicago. And it's not isolated to Chicago. We find it in all the major cities, and it's creeping even out into some of the suburbs. So, and the countless lives lost on this is just, it's enormous. We build monuments for 50,000 guys that got killed in Vietnam, and God bless them for the service. But, we're losing that many every year in the violence in the streets. And nobody's building a monument to that. So, no, I tell you what, let's send $50 more billion to Ukraine. Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Come on.
I was going to say, for $50 billion, couldn't they have started programs to re-educate people and to produce jobs for people to kill the violence and to up people's morale and outlook on the future? But they never can find money for that. But it's always a national security threat 10,000 miles away that they can always find $100 billion or $600 billion or whatever.
Yeah,
these people are not thinking rational.
Yeah, no. Look at right now, the last number I saw was in terms of military aid that's gone to Ukraine in just the last 10 months is around $27 billion. And they're trying to push a bill through the Congress that will, up it and give them another $50 billion. I mean, that's like it'll work out to maybe, $1 million per person left in Ukraine. Just go and give them $1 million and say, here, go have fun. It is the neglect at home and this spending money recklessly, because it's not just Ukraine. Look at the money we spent in Iraq and the money spent in Afghanistan. I mean, good God, we have literally poured, we're talking over $1 trillion down these rat holes. And when we have, children here in the United States that go to bed hungry and don't have adequate housing and certainly are not getting a proper education, it's just, I don't know how long you can continue doing that as a country and survive. And so I think what we're looking at is the genuine possibility of America ceasing to exist, not because we've been attacked by some enemy from without, because we've just been rotten from the inside. We've lost our spiritual core.